And we're back, you pricks. It's going to be that kind of show, I think.
Oh, that's rich. That's rich.
So it's just me and you, Josh.
Yeah.
As planned, as intended.
As intended. This is how we're laying it down tonight.
I guess.
There's a lot to talk about in our little world of arm wrestling.
It seems to be lately, yeah. A lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of interesting drama going on in the sport now.
Drama in a sport supposedly comprised of tough guys too, which is it's one of those things, you know.
You got to realize also that these groups of tough guys are usually standing in front of a mirror, flexing, taking a selfie, and also we know exactly to the 0.2 pounds how much we weigh. So, yeah, how tough can you be, right? But
pretty goddamn tough, apparently. Yeah, your little post that you put up there got a lot of attention too, John.
Yeah.
About this, basically about the state of arm wrestling as it is right now.
Well, it's weird because it's just basically, if you really just boil it down to it, there's a long-winded 2 + 2 = 4 kind of thing. It's like for some reason, everybody forgets it's just it's a simple architecture. It's not that it's not that complicated, but for some reason we want to build the roof on the sport before we have a foundation, let alone the house.
You know what? You can't make a living in the sport. If you're trying to make a living in the sport, you can't. It doesn't matter if you're a promoter or if you're the best arm wrestler in the world. You can't do it. And like one of the things you touched on in your post was, you know, that arm wrestlers need to learn a definition of insanity. And you know, 1 or 2 people can win $20,000 or $30,000, but that's not going to be enough to live on. Maybe you'll buy yourself a car or a night's vacation. The rest of us aren't getting shit. You know, the reason you're supposed to do this sport is because you love it. Whatever the division that you compete in or whatever your weight is, you're supposed to compete because you love it. And that's what everybody else does in every other fucking sport, man. You know, if you're not in the NBA, the NFL, you're doing what you do for free, and you're probably paying a lot of goddamn money to do it. You're probably buying your own equipment and paying for your own uniform and paying for your own travel. You know, if you're doing jiu-jitsu or climbing or whatever, you're traveling all over the goddamn place on your own dime. You're not getting anything for it. A lot of those sports don't even give you medals. It's just like, man, everybody today, it's like, we need this, we need that, or else I'm not doing it. It's like, what the fuck, you know? Do you love the sport or not? If you're using it to make money, you're not going to make money. I mean, Travis probably has made the most of everybody, and he still has a day job.
Well, sure. I mean,
You know what I
the
mean?
thing is, you know, even beyond all that, that's like almost too far into the conversation. You know, the money part. It's just like there's no structure whatsoever in terms of what are the rules, what are all the basics, the very, very basics. You know, if you have 5 different leagues doing the same thing with a group of people that is so small, the group of arm wrestlers in North America, we'll just say U.S., but North America too. The group of arm wrestlers is so small. How can you divide it up so much and expect to get any kind of traction?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you have a group of 100 people and you split up by 5, now you have 20 people in each group. Who gives a shit
That's
about 20 people?
That's an excellent point.
You know,
It's an excellent point.
It's not enough. The pool isn't big enough. And when the pool's not big enough, the only revenue stream right now for arm wrestling are entries. I mean, you can get sponsors and stuff off of your name, but sponsors eventually want a bit of something back.
Mm-hmm.
They give you money, but they give you money in hopes of return of more money. It's just the way it goes. This is the way it's business, which is why the sport hasn't worked at the highest level, because sponsors give money, and then the next year they go, hold on, why are we at a huge negative here? And it's like, well, because we couldn't figure it out. And then 3 years later, it's gone. It's the way all this stuff works. Because the very, very basics of, okay, well, what's your organization that arm wrestlers go to? You can name 4 of them. Okay, well, what direction do you have to go in order to progress in the sport? Oh, you can just walk in and enter a professional tournament.
Mm-hmm.
What? You can just walk in and do that?
Mm-hmm.
And the real question is why? Why can you just do that?
Mm-hmm.
The answer to that is because the entry fee. As long as someone gets an entry fee, no one gives a shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, enter opens. Yeah, we only have like 3 people in the class. Enter it. I just want one more entry, please. That's all. That's all. That's all it is. and that's
You're
a
right.
super short-sighted goal in terms of growth in the sport. You know, I messaged you. You know, if we had one league, and you can call it whatever you want. If you want to call it USAF, USAA, AAA, I don't really give a shit. If you have one league and you have 100 tournaments a year, which is pretty damn reasonable. If you have 50 states, that's 2 tournaments each state a year, which, you know, some are going to have less, some are going to have more. If you had 100 tournaments a year with 100 entries and you took $5 out of each entry fee, you'd have $50,000 at the end to do with, you know, I'm talking about amateur level, so to either go towards Team USA, travel the worlds, or equipment for, you know, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a business guy. But all I know is $50,000 is a lot of money to do something with.
Mm-hmm.
But it has, you know, in tournaments are going to have more than 100 entries. Some are going to have less, blah, blah, blah. But there's nothing even close to that kind of plan. On the amateur level, you cannot build the professional level without the amateur level having some kind of foundation. Where this
When
guy,
you have a plan, it gets rejected. The fact, you know, you brought this up in your post too, so I'm stealing your thunder again. But
please, because I
you got all
barely
these
remember
people who've been around for decades running stuff, and as you mentioned, the WAF has spent whatever 40, 50 years now, you know, isolating the rules, perfecting them, refining them, having the entire world vote on whether or not rules get adopted or not. A much more organized system than we have, which is 2 guys sitting around a bar table. You know what would be better? What if we did this instead? Let's, you know, make the pads 75 feet long and have 63 fouls, and it'll be quintuple elimination, and I get to win regardless.
Yeah.
Because that seems like, you know, what the rules are now. Just do whatever you want. You already have the rules. The rules are set. The World Arm Wrestling Federation has set the rules. All of the major organizations, AAA with a, you know, a couple small changes, USAA and USAF, use the WAF rules for a reason, you know? Because the rules make sense. They're not made up by some guy in the back of a bar who's having a conversation after having 6 martinis or whatever. Mm. But that's what we do now, you know? Well, if this guy is charismatic enough, like, you know, for example, Travis, who I'm talking about right now, he's charismatic enough, he can walk into any place and get someone to give him $100,000. Yeah, he's going to have a lot of power to change the rules, but we can't just say, okay, yeah, we're going to do that because there's $100,000. Maybe I can win a fair portion of that, so we're going to go along with whatever kind of crazy-ass rules you make up just because the promise of money in there. That's not how you develop a sport.
No.
If you look at friggin' professional tiddlywinks or cup stacking, or whatever other ridiculous sport you come up with, they have a federation, they have a league that's national, that goes through world championships. We in the United States, particularly the United States in arm wrestling, we have those things, but we just fucking ignore it.
Yeah.
Who cares if there's 70 countries all around the world following the exact same format? We're not going to do that. It's like, that's the same reason we don't use the stupid metric system, because we can be clowns about certain aspects. And we have probably the highest percentage of top-level arm wrestlers of any country. Maybe Russia or Kazakhstan could give us a competition for it. But when you think about, you know, looking at the Vendettas, it's half Americans.
Sure.
So we got the people. We already have the leagues. We already have the federations. We just ignore them because we're always trying to find some better way to do it instead of refining, as you pointed out, what we already have.
And that's even a stretch to say that we're trying to find a better way to do it. We're really not ever trying to find a better way. We're trying to find an easier way to do it. Whoever the fuck thinks for some reason that we're owed easier rules in the sport is hilarious to me. It's not better. We're not talking about making it better. We're making it so that people can, you can be sloppier. You can bend the rules. You're not bending them. You're breaking them. That's the only reason that the rules got adjusted. It has nothing to do with better. It has nothing to do with better. The only thing you could ever argue that was adjusted to make better would be running fouls, because it pushes the idea of continuing the action, because it was never meant to be like, well, not all fouls aren't fouls. You know what I mean? It was, no, every foul is still a foul. It's just you don't stop the match for it. That's the only one I can ever see that, to me, seems like there was an improvement attempted. The other ones aren't trying to improve anything. They're trying to make it easier. And for some reason, a bunch of professional athletes, as we call ourselves, have to have it easier, which is hilarious to me.
Denise is listening right now. Denise Waddles, who's a legend in our sport, as all of you know. And she just posted that we don't need new rules. And she's 100% right. You know, it's like
It's not very difficult.
I already know I just said this, but I mean, there's a set of rules. There's a worldwide federation. You're not going to do it better. And when we get together as a sport and unify for real, then we can start competing for real. And then people have been arguing about this for the last 2 weeks about why people Americans don't go to worlds outside of the masters class, and they're right. Most of the people that do go are masters, and they're also right that we tend to have more money saved away, so it's easier for us to go. Those are all legitimate points. But the other reason is because our sport is so fractured in this country that we don't realize how big of a deal winning a world title is. There's only one world title, WAF title. WAL is not the world championship. PAF isn't. No title here isn't. The world's title is at WAF. It's the only place to go. Dave Chaffee is probably the best arm wrestler in our country, has stated numerous times, is most impressed. The title he loves the most, that he cherishes the most, the one that he, keeps close to his heart, is his WAF gold medal, because it's the world title. You go up there, there's 18 or 20 guys who all won national titles in their country, and you got to beat all of them to win. That's fucking crazy, man. That's the title you want to win. Everything else is ridiculous. The fact that we spend how many thousands of dollars do people spend going to Las Vegas? For WAL, they spent a lot more probably going there in the hotels than it would have cost to go to Budapest or Bulgaria. You don't win money there, but you win a world title, and that's supposed to fucking mean something. Every other sport, it means something. You don't get paid shit for the Olympics. I mean, this is being the best in the world legitimately. That's what the title is, the gold medal. Ron Klemba, whose house I was just at last week for the Dungeon Christmas party, he's got beautiful boxes for his WAF gold medals right up there on the shelf for everybody can see because he's proud of them.
Hell yeah.
That's the one everybody wants. And if you need money to motivate you to go win a legitimate world title and be the best in the world, then you're in the wrong fucking sport, man. You're doing arm wrestling because you want to make money, not because you love it. If you love it, you want to be the best. And the way to be the best is to win the senior class WAF gold medal. That's how you prove it. Everything after that is fine. You go to Vendetta and everybody's hopped up on steroids and all that kind of stuff. Fine, if that's what you want to do. But the world title is still at WAF. It's nowhere else. Everybody recognizes that except us. We constantly WAL, it's a better class. No, it wasn't. WAL is not a better class.
Yeah, no, it isn't. And also, you're right. Because I think we're in an age right now where attention is more valuable than accomplishment. I really think that. You can get a lot of attention by hanging around in shit tournaments because you can get your Facebook video on the internet and you can get 50 likes. And most people are very, very okay with that. And that's better than going after the world's best. And that's pretty sad. And I mean, if there's no... you're talking about the very best is the WAF senior class. You're right, and that's where we have this big pocket, right? Because everybody knows how to start to arm wrestle in terms of how to start the sport. Everybody knows where this highest level of amateur competition is. We'll call it amateur just because it's the definition of it, right? But there's this big, like you said, it's fractured. There's this big gap right in the middle of it for United States of America anyway, where it's like, well, how do I get from point A to point B? With in terms of, I don't want to say structure, but in terms of practice. Because everything we practice in this country, for the most part, is completely anti-WAF. In terms of rules, in terms of everything. It just is what it is. Like, we don't necessarily have the best qualified, I don't want to say refs, but, a lot of times refs are just your buddies. Like training partners. Hey, I know you're a pretty good ref. Like, just you mind stepping in? That's how a lot of tournaments are run. And you can't build after the WAF, which would be the professional stuff. You can't build after that without a whole lot of stuff going on. And for some reason, we keep missing that. It's never going to get big without drug testing. And I'm talking about professional drug testing. Now, I do agree when we had Neil Pickup on where he said right now the arm wrestling world doesn't necessarily need that. And I think he's right. I do think he's right in terms of the professional stuff. Because, and the only reason I say that is I do think it's very, very important. And you can talk to a lot of guys who do take steroids who also believe it's very, very important. Because you're not going to get real money unless you are. But we have so much damage in between there in this country. That needs to be addressed first. That has to be addressed first. We need to build that basement, and then we need to start thinking about the house. Because right now, everybody knows how to fucking build a roof. And everybody who's building that roof is saying, hey, man, this roof will keep you dry. And we're like, well, what about the house? And they're like, oh, no, that's fine. And then before you know it, the roof's gone.
It's blown down.
Every 3 or 4 years, because you can't build a business that way. We're trying to build a business before we have any kind of system.
And I mean, I understand it because it's an exciting sport, and everybody who comes in and sees it, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. This should be on ESPN. Everybody loves this. This is crazy. Look at these guys. They're so pissed off. They're basically fighting. Yeah, this is amazing. So it's like, it's very tempting to say, I'm going to find a way to make this into a big money thing for myself to enrich myself. And but if you look at the people who have been promoting for a long time, the Beans, Denise and Leonard, Bill Collins, they're not rich off arm wrestling. They've been doing it for the love of the sport. Hopefully they make some money, but they're not getting rich off of it.
Sure.
They've put in the time and effort over the course of decades behind the sport in a way that nobody else has in this country. I mean, there's other people that have been running state tournaments for a long time, Bill Cox and people, I'm sure you could come up with 50 names right now. And all of those people are part of the structure that we already have, but they're not the ones that are, getting on ESPN. It's the people with the deep pockets that are coming out of nowhere, with promises of big money, and it distracts everybody. So it actually weakens the sport having that kind of stuff. It gives you a splash of publicity and popularity on ESPN or whatever, but in reality, as numerous people have said in the show, it kind of fucks the sport up. People get all psyched about it. They get raring to go, and they're going to go down to Vegas, and they're going to win 20 grand. It gets canceled, and all of a sudden they're like, well, fuck this. I'm going to watch football instead. If we had an organization that we all paid dues into, my son's on a climbing team, and we get to pay $100 a year to be part of USA Climbing, and so does every other climber. And they have discounts for people that are financially strapped, but we all pay money into it, and it pays for amazing events all around the country. They have 16 regions, and so you got to go to 2 tournaments in your region. And then you go to the regionals, which is the final of that area. If you do well in regionals, you go to divisionals. If you do well in divisionals, which is also within a 4-hour drive, then you go to nationals. So basically, you're paying for 1 trip a year. If you qualify for Worlds, they pay to send you with all this money that they collect.
Right.
So basically, you're saving up your money. You're doing local tournaments in your state or the couple states around you, or if you're in a big state, just in your local area of the state. And then divisionals, which, like I said, is within 4 or 5 hour drive, which is totally doable without a hotel if you don't have money. And then if you're top 6 there, you go to nationals. So you're paying for that 1 trip. You qualify for Worlds. They send you. And if you look across any sport that you mentioned, they're all like that. They all have federations that you pay money to be a part of. And it's not a lot of money. It's because, they know a couple thousand people are going to join, and they're going to end up sending 10 people to Worlds or what have you. So there's plenty of money, and we, through our love of the sport, are funding that, sending our best people to Worlds by paying an association that enables refs to have money, it enables you to pay for drug tests, and it enables you to send athletes. And if you think about the number of arm wrestlers that enter a tournament every year in this country, whatever it is, 5,000, 10,000, like you said, it's not a huge number. It's probably more than that. I don't know what the exact number it is, but if we were all paying $50, that's a significant amount of money that can be used if we really mean it, that we want our best to be going to WAF and, showing that the United States is a dominant force in arm wrestling. Then why the fuck aren't we doing that?
Right. And sending our best to WAF is one little screw in the machine. Because all this talk, you're 100% right, but all this talk is about the sport. Nothing's bigger than the sport. The WAF is not bigger than the sport. USAF is not. PAL is not. None of it's bigger than the sport. None of our superstars are bigger than the sport. If you take the top 10 best arm wrestlers in the world and you got rid of them, it would not damage the sport. It's still here. Nothing's bigger than the sport itself. And the sport itself, because when we start talking about going from amateur to professional, that's a worldly thing. This is not regional now. This is not US. This is the sport in general. So you're 100% right. But starting that ball rolling of what if you talk to somebody who's like, I'm not going to go to Worlds because it costs too much money. Fair enough. Even if they're, we'll say, top 1 or 2 in the country, like overall, everybody would agree. Yeah, and 198 pounds, this guy is 1 or 2. Would that person go if it was paid for?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to make any money probably, but would you go for free? It's covered. I would like to think, yeah.
I would like to think, yeah,
too. And I really do think that they most likely would. If it was, you're paid. You're paid, by the way, you're getting paid by every arm wrestler in this country that wants to send you there.
Team USA.
Team USA. I mean? Right, exactly. Like a real organization.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's just, all that stuff builds on itself. But we're talking about the foundation of arm wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need right now. We don't have one. We have a bunch of people trying. There's a bunch of people trying. But we're also trying to build like 1/5 of the concrete pad at a time. And then saying how much better our concrete pad is than yours.
Here's what I think about that. I partially agree with you and I partially disagree with you, because I feel like we do have the foundation. We already have it. We're just saying it's not good enough. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
We have the structure, and some of these people whose names I've been saying, in adulation, are complicit in that, because I honestly feel that Denise and Frank and Karen Bean and Leonard and Bill Collins should all be working together at one nationals. And I've said that a million times. And I know there's all kinds of good reasons why it's not happening. But to be honest, I really don't give a fuck.
Is there really a good reason?
Jerk about it.
I want
there to be.
Is there really any good reasons?
I don't know.
Right.
I'm trying to be a little bit.
And I love all those people. I love all of them. I love
they're all
every
awesome
one
people.
Of them. But is there really a good reason? I don't know. I don't know if there is, because
there's reasons.
Because
you're right.
Because I do believe, like you said, they should be all working together. I love every one of them.
Yeah, because they put on the best tournaments, and I don't think anybody would argue with that.
I can't.
If you go to one of their tournaments, it's going to be smoothly run. There's going to be quality reffing, and whatever they say is going to happen is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's all you need to get me to travel across the country. And I've done that for all of their events.
Me too.
I've traveled great distances to go all 3 of their events, because I know they're going to be legit. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be bullshit. And if they say something's going to be there, it's going to be there. So they're the perfect people to do. We already have them. We already have the event in the USAF, which, for whatever reason, WAF picked. That's out of our control. So that's the organization. And they have the same rules. So it's like the foundation is there already, and we should stop rejecting it and just utilize it. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I mean, there's, unfortunately, like probably in any organization, I haven't had a lot of experience outside of arm wrestling in terms of this kind of stuff, but there's always people who want a little bit of power. And I'm not talking about those promoters we just talked about, that want to get a little bit of power and a little bit of attention out of a sport like arm wrestling, which is, if your idea of power and control over people is to get in the sport of arm wrestling and be popular and cool, you have a fucking problem. Mm-hmm. And it's not a way to build a legitimate, backbone in the sport. It's not. And all it does is damage. All it does is damage. Mm-hmm. We have to pick what we want to pick in terms of which one is the best. And honestly, we already have kind of an answer. And not even that it's the best necessarily, but it's that it's globally recognized. USAF is globally recognized. The WAF says that's the one. Mm-hmm. And we use their rules already. So, I mean, it just makes the most sense. But the idea to me that every tournament is not a USAF tournament is the problem right now. Mm-hmm. And you can, like I said, you can put any acronym of letters you want. I could really give a shit. But it has to be one. The pool is too small. Mm-hmm. Especially with, people dropping out and people coming on and all this kind of stuff, But we need to have one. It's just the way it goes. Mm-hmm. And you're not
listening to you say that. It's like, I'm thinking about Denise and Leonard's series, which goes all over the country. Yeah. Although we haven't gotten them up to the East Coast yet. Still working on that. But, USAA puts on a crap load of events. And, I mean, really, why can't they be USAF events? I mean, and Denise is also posting on here, which is 100% accurate. she said, if you're charging $100 membership dues or whatever it was, and she already gets a huge amount of shit from people about how much money she makes. So here's my little point to that. Why the fuck would anybody be upset about a promoter making money?
Can I answer that? Can I answer that?
Yes.
And you and I both know this. It's the same reason people get upset that a free show doesn't start on time sometimes. Because for some reason, people are fucking entitled.
That's what brings me back to the original point, man. It's supposed to be a sport of badasses, and everybody's whining about someone making money for hard goddamn work. That's what we're supposed to be about. Denise works hard. She deserves to get paid for it. You get a problem with that, don't go to her fucking events and stop arm wrestling. Go find another sport.
Right.
There's probably professional crybaby somewhere. You can be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I said before, man. Like the acronym to me, I don't really care. It could be, hey, let's all make them USAA tournaments. Because, I mean, they use the right rules already. They use USAF globally recognized rules. I don't care which one it is, but it needs to be one, and it needs to follow the standard. It needs to follow the standard all the way up so that the new people come in, know the standard. They follow the standard right off the bat. We don't have to unteach bad habits that we've already built because a group of guys thought, guys, the rules are too hard to follow. They're just too hard. Really? Is that right? There's a whole group of people that go for a whole week and do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. Yeah. I know when I was playing basketball, I used to practice every day, multiple times a day to be on a team that had a bunch of rules. And I could follow them, and I was 8. Mm-hmm. So for some reason, a bunch of adults can't follow rules. And they're pretty damn simple. Mm-hmm.
You're right.
You start with your wrist straight, your shoulders squared. You go when they say go. You don't cover their knuckle. And you stay on the pad, and then you pin your guy. It's not rocket science. But for some reason, this is just the hardest thing in the world. I can't keep my elbow down, dude. I can't keep my elbow down. I can't go on time. They're too strong. Oh, well, I think you just answered your problem.
You know, that's funny because that's so true. That is so true. A lot of the rules that get created, it's because they can't succeed in the rules the way they're set. So they want to come up with different rules that are advantageous towards them.
Yeah, I hate to break it to people, but if they say go and your elbow pops up because their back pressure is too strong, you're not strong enough. If you go to pin them and your elbow comes out the back, it's because you weren't strong enough to pin them without your elbow coming out the back. You're not strong enough. This is not a rule problem. It's an athlete problem. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to argue that they're too strong because they're on steroids or something, then go ahead. But I think the people that be making the argument are also on steroids. So it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's pretty easy. It's called taking responsibility for a sport that you're lucky to be a part of.
And there's a lot of people saying that we should unite and we should take responsibility. And, there's some interesting comments going on here. Denise just pointed out, which Leonard mentioned when we had him on last week. What was it, last week? That USAA, WWC, IAF founded the USAF in 98 to unify the sport. That went to hell. Okay, it did go to hell. But as I said to Leonard before, we're not talking about Israel and Palestine. We're talking about arm wrestling. So let's get that shit back together. And everybody on here is saying that we need to take responsibility for it and unite. Scott Wynn, he's somebody I talked to a bunch of times who has had the idea about having some kind of unified federation too. I mean, we have to take responsibility for our sport, and one of the things is holding people fucking accountable. And we haven't had Anthony on the show yet, and we probably should give him a chance to talk about his stuff. But I mean, he might be the best guy in the world. I haven't met him in person. I mean, I've only talked to him on Facebook. But he reneged in a big way. And that's whether it's his fault or not, doesn't matter. He reneged. So if you're putting your energy into the PAF from this point on and you're ignoring USAF, USAA, AAA, why would you do that? I mean, Herman pointed that out. And Anthony, I think you should come on the show and talk so you have a chance to stick up for yourself. But the point is we have these amazing organizations. Why are we starting new federations when we already have too many? We already have too many fucking nationals. I mean, it's kind of a joke right now that there's 5 nationals right now, assuming that Travis's actually happens. But that's ridiculous. It's comical.
Yeah.
I mean, who would take this sport seriously? And I got into an argument with some people who I normally agree with online about this because I was saying, don't call yourself a national champion anymore. It doesn't matter. I've said on this show, I have 8 national titles. I'm not the best at 198. I know that. Everybody knows that. You know what I mean? But if you go to enough of them, you're going to start accruing some gold medals. I would like to go and get, 30th place or whatever I got. And no, I'm 30th in the country.
No,
and
yeah.
This is the Nationals. What do you know what I mean?
No, I think you're right. I think you're 100%.
But I mean, I would like to know what number I am. And if I went to, there was one Nationals, if you didn't show up, that's on you. If there's one Nationals, then we know who the best people are. And I don't care if you don't show up. You don't count if you don't show up.
That's
you
right.
got to compete.
That's 100% true. I'm so sick of that shit.
That's one argument I hate. Well, so-and-so wasn't there. They were invited. It wasn't like I said, you can't come. They didn't show up. Whose fault is that? That's their fault. And if it's much more of an argument if you have one Nationals if someone doesn't show up.
Yeah. Because it's like, hey, man, it's like I showed up because I figured whoever showed up, I could still beat them. So, not my fault. Not my fault they didn't show up. So, I agree with you 100% on that. Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, and also to be super clear about it, just because, I do like all these people that we're talking about, these promoters. I don't know Anthony either, but Denise and all them. I'm not sitting here trying to say that those people have not tried in the past, because I know personally that they have real hard.
Oh, they have. They have. It's not their fault. It's our fault.
Yeah, I'm not trying to.
We're the arm wrestlers. Yeah. 5, 6, 10,000 of us should be driving the sport, not leaving it up to a small group of people and expecting them to do everything for us and hand feed us. Mm-hmm. Denise tried to do it, and probably what happened, I mean, I don't know all the arguments. She's posted a little bit about his stuff in it, but if we all supported the USAF from 98 on the way it was intended, whatever problems they had, they probably would have worked out. If they were getting 600-700 entries of that event and we were treating it like the real Nationals, it would still be going strong like that. Yeah, we failed. We failed the promoters. I don't think they failed us.
No, they're still here.
Exactly.
So they certainly didn't fail anything. If anything, it's incredible that they are still here. Yeah, I mean, it's just there's certain parts of it that are just mind blowing to me. That for some reason we still keep following the wrong damn path, when the path is very, very clear. I just don't get it.
You're right. It is clear, and I don't get it either. And that's both of us have been pissed about a lot. I mean, it's not just us. I mean, everybody's been talking about this, for 2 weeks. And or more than that, but it's been on fire for the last 2 weeks because of what happened at PAF. It's like
which is like I'm still super in the dark about that shit.
Me too, because I didn't go. I haven't been to any of his events.
No, me neither. That was during my. I think it was mostly during my injured time anyway. And I don't think there was really much of a qualification in my area anyway. But I don't know.
He had a great turnout, and that was a tough event. And if you won PAF, that's definitely something that's worthy of note. In the sense that if you won Michigan State, it's worthy of note. If you win New England's, it's worthy of note. If you win any big tournament, it's worthy of note. It makes a difference. People are going to notice. They're going to watch videos of your wins and congratulate you as they should. But there should be one Nationals. It's that simple. There should be one national champion in each category and a second and third place person. And you should be able to go point people to a website and say, look at this. I used to be ranked 15th. Now I'm 10th. Because we know, because I went to Nationals and I got 15th place. And last year I got, 10th place or whatever. So you can look at it and track it like you can in any other sport. Any other organized sport, you can do that. You can go right now and look up my son on USA Climbing and see where he's ranked. Why can't we do that with us? I mean, the basic 100%. Stuff, the basic structure that every other sport, and I'm joking around to a certain extent about tiddlywinks and cup stacking, but if you look up,
but not really.
They have federations, they have rankings, they have dues, they have an organized league. Mm-hmm. You can become world champion cup stacker, and it has more legitimacy than our national champions here because we have 5 of them.
Right. Yeah, it's it just blows my mind to even think about. Just like quickly think. Imagine if every tournament that wasn't whatever umbrella you want to call it, at the end of the day, that isn't that could be. And then in turn, the revenue or the support, all that stuff that would come from that. In the amateur circuit, it has to be singular. It has to be one. If you want to get past that and go the professional route, that's different because the professional route typically comes from sponsorships and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Hey, if you got enough money to do it, then do it. But in terms of how we're going to build this thing, nobody's following the same shit. It doesn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And in terms of, if we build, especially when we're talking about like sending our best senior guys to Worlds and all this kind of stuff, even if we sent our very, very best, the pool isn't huge here. There's 330 million people in this country. How isn't it big? How isn't
exactly?
How isn't the pool that big? It has to be. It should be much, much larger, but it's
juniors,
not because it's
juniors. Take people out of soccer and start them arm wrestling, like every other country, especially Eastern Europe. And I've said this 100 times in this show. When I was watching the juniors, because we had 2 people in them, Kazakhstan had 80 kids in the junior classes in WAF. 80 kids, and their country's freaking tiny. We have, as you said, 320 million people here. We get the kids involved. We get the juniors involved. We already have the foundation. We already have the people. We just have to start taking it seriously and supporting it and clamoring to the people that we love to get this back together in a unified fashion. No matter what happened, it can be resolved. And then we do everything we can to support it and make the Nationals a real event and give some pride to the people that win it and support and maybe, hopefully in the future, money so they can go to Worlds. It's not something that we can't do. It's just a matter of us committing to do it.
Yeah, and I'll even broaden the scope a little bit more. So we're talking about novice to amateur to all this stuff. How we get from you start the first day in your sport, how do you go to nationals, how do you go to Worlds, all that stuff, right? Go backwards a little bit. How are we ever going to get this sport as to be a legitimate high school sport or something like that if there isn't one place to go where it's legitimate? With the right rules, the right equipment, a place where you can go and research it and talk to the head and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if amateur wrestling is a thing in schools and all this, then what did they do? Is there 5 different amateur wrestling leagues? I'm pretty sure there isn't.
No.
You can't even start at the junior level like you're talking about. Because, I mean, that's where you're going to find the juniors. You're going to find them in schools. Mm-hmm. Either that or you start up arm wrestling clubs, like a legitimate gym, and we're not there, not even close to being there in the U.S. unless you want to rent a corner in a martial arts studio or something like that, which I don't think is a terrible idea.
Well, there's 2 people on here, Michael Todd and who else just said the same thing here.
They're very smart, whoever they are.
There's a million. Anyway, somebody else besides Michael just said that. And basically, Michael was talking to Pushkar, after the super match, and Pushkar goes around to schools with his arm wrestling table, and of course all the kids gather around, everybody wants to arm wrestle. I brought an arm wrestling table to the end of the year event at the climbing gym, and all those kids are strong as oxes. They were surrounded that table the entire time. They didn't want to do anything else. Nobody was climbing. Nobody was watching movies. They were all arm wrestling for the whole time, and I had to yank them off the table to get it out of there because it's fucking fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a question of exposing people to the sport and having somebody who can keep them safe nearby and teaching them the rules, and everybody will do it because it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, in a climbing gym, you get 2 kids from each high school that end up being serious climbers. If you did the same thing for arm wrestling, we'd have 10,000 new arm wrestlers every year.
Right. I mean, it has to go that way if we want to really do what we want, say what we want to do. Now, a lot of people say what they say, and they don't do what they do, though.
Well, we talked about this too, John, and you had a really good point about it.
Of course I did.
I was saying, I was saying, we could do this. I just don't know if I want to. And you brought up the point it should be run by non-arm wrestlers. And I think that's a brilliant point because we want to arm wrestle. We want to focus on that. We want to have people like, family members of ours who are intelligent and maybe run organizations, or some people that are not active pullers,
right,
but maybe have in the past or are part of our extended family, running it instead of actual arm wrestlers, because they will have the time to do it. They'll have the commitment to do it. And they won't have to worry about, various kinds of bias and us whining about, but I want to arm wrestle. I don't want to answer emails and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because that's where I'm at. Like, there's no way I'm doing any of this. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, big of me to say all this shit, but, I'm still a competitor. I'm not done. But, if I was retired from the sport, absolutely I'd want to, because I love the sport. I love the sport. I don't want this to go down. I want it to go up. Even if I don't benefit from it, I want someone to. There's going to be people 20 years from now arm wrestling still, because nothing is bigger than the sport of arm wrestling. Mm-hmm. We are not bigger. Nobody is. Not one person.
I would say I really want to win a gold medal in Masters, not seniors, and I understand that seniors is the real place to win one, but I would happily not go to Worlds if it meant that the team we were sending was going to be winning gold medals and silver medals and bronze. If we were sending our best, I would happily step out of the way. Even in Masters, because, I mean, Craig Tullier is over 40, and we know he would smack me around. Mike Solaris is over 40, and there's other guys are over 40 in 198s that would kick my ass that are not going. I want our team to win. I want the best people to go, and I want the rest of the world to be like, oh, shit, U.S. still's got it. They're still number one, because we should be. And I don't mean disrespect to other countries. I love all you guys, too. But, I mean, we're a big country, and we have a lot of goddamn strong arm wrestlers here that you are kind of skating because you never have to see them because they don't make it over there. So let's change it, man. Let's get some of our awesome... I'm a little bit awesome, just a little bit. You're not quite awesome enough to go yet, John, but maybe in the future we'll expand it so that you can go. But I'm talking about the really good guys.
If I can, as soon as I learn how to drink from a glass of water with my left hand, I got a few more goals to hit. You know what I mean?
Yes. But here's another good point from Albert Gross. You know, we don't have the 143 class anymore, the 132 class, 121 class. It's not like all those men disappeared. They're still there.
Yeah, we do have those classes.
We have them. Travis Jocelyn, Chris Michaels up here are both, they compete at 154. It's 20 pounds more than they weigh, Those people are everywhere, but we don't have those classes anymore. When I first started in the sport in 87, 88, the highest class was 199 plus. I mean, I was in 165, and there were 3 classes under me. I mean, you don't see that anymore.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, those classes are there. It's just that we don't really respect them in this country.
Well, Chance just said the reason you don't have those classes, you'll get 0 to 2 people. It's because nobody has them. If you started having them, those people would show up. But the point is like you have them because you need to keep them in order to develop them. You can't just say, well, nobody's showing up, so we're going to skip it. You keep offering, you keep offering, you keep offering it. And eventually you get the numbers. The same thing with women's and kids. They have to, in order for them to be invited, they have to have a place to compete. And if we follow the structure that's already set by WAF with the regimented weight classes, then we don't have to create it. It's all created for us. We just have to use it.
Well, and the thing is, too, here's a thing that just popped in my head. So new guy comes to practice, shows up pretty consistently for a couple months, right? He's 140 pounds, 130 pounds. Mm-hmm. These guys exist. This happens all the time. How many of those guys even know that those weight classes exist, period? They think the lightest one's 154 because that's all they've ever seen at a tournament. Mm-hmm. And then when they go, is there any other weight class? You go, yeah. And they're like, well, where? Oh, one tournament. One tournament a year here. Maybe 2. Maybe. You know what I mean? Like, and they're both national titles. They're both national events because there's 2 different ones. And they go, what? There's 2? So, I mean, we just have a long way to go. That's for sure. But the first way, sometimes you got to hit the reset button. Sometimes you can't. There's not enough glue in the world. Sometimes you just need to pick what you got because what we have is fine. There's nothing wrong with what we have. Mm-hmm. It's been sifted through for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Pete Milano just said qualifiers cost everybody more money. I don't agree with that. I mean, when WAL was out, we had 10 million qualifiers. There was like 3 in the same weekend within 100 miles of each other. And nobody was making any money off them except WAL. But we still held them. So if we can basically volunteer our time for WAL, Johnny Come Lately, why can't we do it for people that have been around for 50
people have plenty of money. People have plenty of money to spend on qualifiers if it, after 6 months in the sport, someone gives them a nickname. Mm-hmm. They have plenty of it for that. Like I said, attention is a lot more important.
You got to get rid of the idea. You got to get rid of the idea that you're showing up at tournaments to win money and make a living. You're not going to make a goddamn living. You're showing up at the tournaments to win, to qualify, to move on, to go to Worlds. That's what the idea is. So if you get a medal, that's great. You should be happy for it. It's a step in the process. If we get away from like I'm only going to that tournament because I'm going to win $500, you're not going to win $500. One person is. The rest of us aren't. That's how it works. So instead, go to your regional event, go to divisionals, go to nationals, and then go win us a goddamn gold medal. That's what we need. That's what I want to see. And all of us have to contribute in various ways. 1, we show up at the tournament. 2, we stop whining about every little thing that we don't like. They don't have prize money. They don't have prize money. You know what I mean? So what? If the medals aren't the best medals you ever saw in the world, is it going to qualify you for nationals? Then shut up and go and win. Prove you're the best, and then go to Worlds and get a gold medal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's a model that I respect. And I think everybody on here respects it. Everybody wants that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you thought your thoughts are, but I thought it was pretty cool to win a state title and then to win New England's and then to win a national. You know, those building blocks are cool. They just are. You know, I mean, like, and you know, the whole like the qualifiers, you know, cost more money. Yeah, I guess. But how many tournaments do you go to anyway? Are people going to 8 tournaments a year? There's plenty of people to go to 8 tournaments a year. That's nothing crazy.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
say you went to 3 state titles, a national, and then 3 more state titles. So that's 7 tournaments. What if those first 3 tournaments you went to were to qualify you for nationals? You know, you have to participate. You might not even have to win because we don't want to water down the entries. You have to participate in this to go. You have to participate in this to go. And then once then you're qualified once you've participated in it. We got to start somewhere. This is starting. This isn't.
Well, that's how every sport does it.
Right.
You know, when they have the good thing to have is when you have too many people, and then you got to start trimming it down and having some criteria to get people to nationals. That's awesome. Right now, we have no criteria. You show up, like you say, you pay the entry fee, you enter whatever class you want, as long as you're on weight. And and that's how it's going to continue to be for a while. But it would be nice if we did some of these steps and we had the problem in a couple of years. It was like, oh, well, you can't go to nationals because we're already sending 3 people from this state.
Yeah, that's a luxury problem. That's a luxury problem.
Jojo Lorette just said the PAF did the same thing that we're talking about. And that's one thing I will give Anthony credit for, which is that he set up a structure of, regional events, regional championships that qualify you for nationals. I mean, I don't think he's stuck to that format religiously. But again, the first couple of years you wouldn't because you're not going to have an overwhelming number of people. But my problem with the PAF is that why do we do that instead of using the structure we already had? And I understand Anthony may have wanted to do it by himself, and he might not have been able to do it with Bill and Denise and Len and all those other folks. But that doesn't mean that you should just go out and do it anyway. You know what I mean? Because look what happens. He got burned. And I'm not saying it's his fault. I don't know whose fault it is that the money didn't show up. Maybe somebody, he got promises that, were not carried through or whatever. But the fact is that you put out a big thing. It doesn't happen. It makes you look bad, whether you deserve it or not. It makes the pullers look bad for committing to go. And it makes the sport look like we're running it, like a circus, especially right after WAL. We can't be doing that kind of stuff. We have to be more organized, and we have to carry things through. We can't say we're going to do stuff and then not do it because it makes us look like idiots. Any of us, and not just one promoter or 2 promoters, but all of us who are participating in a sport that is so wildly out of control without saying, hey, wait a minute. Let's take a little bit of control back here. We're the people putting our arms up on the table and risking them being broken and traveling all around the world and spending all of our own money. I want to have some consistency. I want to have a pattern that I can follow so I know exactly how good I am. I want to know if I'm ranked 100th. And I want to have go to nationals and know that if I win there and go to worlds, it's because I was the best, not because I was one of the 3 people that showed up to that 1 out of 5 nationals.
Well, and the thing is, too, a couple points to that. You give all these entry fees to every tournament you go to, right? Well, what if your entry fees were actually going to something? Instead of just, everybody needs to get paid. Of course, promoters need to get paid, and they should. They work, they put on a tournament. You're doing something I don't want to do. That's for sure. You should get some money. But imagine if every one of your entry fees went towards Team USA. You know what I mean? It means something. Instead of, everybody was more than happy to spend a gazillion dollars on WAL entry fees. Where'd that go? I mean, there were people that were probably willing to spend $2,000 cycles to earn $1,000 in Vegas, right? I mean, so what did that do? So
Exactly.
Your money actually goes to something under this,
something that
fantasy.
matters.
Under this
It's
fantasy.
something that matters.
Well,
Dude, it's about the sport. It's growing the sport. It's the love of the sport.
Well,
Everybody is
bigger.
posting the same stuff on the commentary. I mean,
Nothing's
Michael
bigger
Todd's
than the
saying he's saying I went to 30 tournaments in 2011. I didn't win any money, and it was awesome. There's Simon saying, I got a medal from Worlds that was misspelled. Who gives a shit? You went it for the love of the sport.
That's great.
You know what I mean? And that's what it's really about, man.
Yeah. Well,
Stop
the thing is,
whining.
let's
Support the sport. Show up, compete, win, lose, but fucking show up. Support the real people. Let's get this going the way it's supposed to be.
Well, the second point, too, is that there's a lot of great promoters out there that get a lot of money from sponsors, and they give out good money to tournaments. Thank you, first of all. Second of all, what makes it so you can't run the same format? Send all that entry, your $5 per entry or whatever the system would be, send that to the Team USA, and then give out some money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's nothing saying that, hey, you can't put on a tournament with any money payouts. You know what I mean? Like, we can still have those tournaments. If somebody's good at getting sponsorship money, then someone's good at it.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't hurt anything.
All I'm saying is,
you're right. I mean, don't let that be your driving force.
Right.
But hell, I mean, if you have a tournament that if this whole thing is run off of X amount of tournaments getting X amount of entries times 52, then if the base model is 100 entries and you get 200, well, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's really not much negative to it other than I don't like the rules. Well, learn how to follow them. It's not a big deal.
Exactly. Learn how to follow them.
Everybody's sitting back on Sunday watching football, which has a gazillion rules that to me don't make any sense, but I don't want them to because I don't like football. But we're happy just watching this and saying, yeah, this sport's perfect. It's fine. It's no problem. But then we say, well, there's too many rules in arm wrestling. There's barely any rules in arm wrestling. What are you talking about?
Right. There are barely any rules. There's not that many. You're right. And it's like looking the gift horse in the mouth. We don't realize how good we have it already. And Simon's saying a lot of stuff on here. One thing he said is, it's not going to be some kind of magic, solution if AAA, USAF, and USAA unified. That wouldn't solve all the problems. You're right. It wouldn't solve all the problems, but it would solve one big problem. We would have a single national title in each weight class. And to me, that means a lot. I mean, that means a huge amount. I mean, imagine if you could actually say, I won a nationals at the real nationals, and I know that Simon considers USAF to be real, and I do too, but not everybody agrees. There's still people, splintering off and going to various ones because they know AAA was the original. That's the one I went to in '88 when I first started arm wrestling. That was the only nationals. USAA is run by Leonard and Denise, so it's going to be legitimate. It's hard to say that any of the current nationals, or at least those three, are not worthwhile. They are worthwhile. And that's what makes it hard for people. You can't just pick one because all three are going to be awesome. And that's why eliminating or narrowing them down into one does, in fact, simplify a great deal. It's not a perfect solution, but I think a lot of people, and based on the comments that we're getting, would agree it would be pretty awesome if we could look at one list of national champions and know that's them. Wherever you are on the list, 30th, 100th, at least that's your real placement.
No, totally. Yeah. But, yeah. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things. Like you said, the pullers are responsible for this. It's the truth. The pullers are responsible. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't think that's going to be fixed anytime soon. I don't think that part of it is. I really don't. Mm-hmm. But I think having one unified path in Amateurville here, which is what we're talking about, has to be done. That's the most important part. One unified path with the amateur circuit, and we don't need everybody to be happy, because not everybody's going to be happy. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it goes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
I do know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I want to give a little love to Corey Dupuis, who's been putting all kinds of fire comments on here, and I totally agree with everything he's saying. Corey and I don't always agree, as he knows, but you guys who don't know Corey, he's one of those guys that will drive, every single weekend 7-8 hours to compete, even if he goes 0-2, which hopefully doesn't happen very often. But if it did, he would drive 7 hours to do it and come back happy because he loves the sport. And Corey, to me, is emblematic of most arm wrestlers, because the people that I know and train with, they want to arm wrestle. They go all over the place. They never say, well, how much money am I going to make? Never. I've never heard anybody say that. They go because they love the sport, and that's the base. That's what's already there. We just haven't tapped into it as a group, as a unified organization, and that's what our problem is. It's like we already have these tough people who are in the sport for pure reasons, which, in my opinion, are the overwhelming majority of arm wrestlers. And it's like I feel like we need to find a couple people who are willing to start an idea of this federation with dues and get them to work with the people we already mentioned, which is Denise, Leonard, the Beans, Bill Collins, and Simon, and come up with something that will work with everybody and head towards unification, regardless of what the problems are. We don't all know. We all know like 1/10 of the story, and as far as I know, nobody's been shot or killed or buried over it. So whatever happened, we can get over it. You know what I mean? And someone's saying you can't believe John doesn't like football. I don't like football either. I think football's stupid.
It's fucking ridiculous. Let's be honest.
Dude, I can't control the outcome. You know, why am I going to waste so much time and energy on something I haven't? I'd rather arm wrestle. If I lose, at least I know it was my fault. Not because I wore the wrong hat while I was watching TV and I jinxed the game, you know?
And I seem to be able to play, or to, arm wrestle. I can't play football, guys. More of a basketball guy.
Yeah, basketball. I don't know. Basketball, really? We should play one-on-one sometime.
All right.
Anyway, I lost my train of thought. There's all these smart comments on here, and I got off on a tangent there. But, again, Denise, you got to come on the show. Because, yes, we're saying a lot of smart stuff. We got to get Denise on. Leonard said it last week. We got to get you on next week or something.
We'll put up a picture of Leonard. If if it makes you feel better. You can just say stuff, and then Leonard will get attached.
You know what? We should do a poll, John, tonight after the show. Let's put up a poll about how many people would be willing to pay dues to an organization whose sole purpose was to fund, regional, divisional, national events and send our best pullers to Worlds. I mean, basically telling people it's unlikely that you're going to benefit financially from the dues that you're paying in, but you would be supporting, the sport that we all love in a concrete fashion, with the aim being to improve Team USA.
Yeah, I mean, listen, people support a lot worse things in this world with a lot less, or for a lot more money. So, I think people would. Maybe we should put a poll up, get the vote going. Of the people.
Yeah, Scott Wynn is putting. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there's people asking about the benefit of it. I mean, here's what all you need to know. Look up any other sport. You guys, a lot of you guys have kids. Your kids are not competing for free. You're paying money, and you see what you get as a result. And you pick leagues, whatever sport you select to put your kid in. You're picking them based on their organization and their professionalism, the quality of the refs, the quality of the tournaments, the games, all that kind of stuff. How nice the uniforms look, etc. And arm wrestling shouldn't be any different. No. Like I said, pick any sport. You can guarantee that if it's a sport that has any kind of recognition, or even ones that don't have recognition, like cup stacking, and I'm sorry if there's any professional cup stackers watching.
I'm not sorry at all.
If you've watched the videos, they're actually really, I don't know how they do that. It looks like magic. You guys should look up those videos right now. I should have actually had one ready so we could show it while I was talking about cup stacking. But anyway, the formula's already there. You pay the dues, you follow the structure. It's done. Every other sport is done, and all we have to do is copy them.
Yeah.
It's like when one good thing that WL did that everybody hated was using the ELO ranking system, which every sport uses. But for us, it was like, it's good enough for, USA tennis, it's good enough for chess, it's good enough for all these other sports, but it doesn't work for us, we don't like it. So we just stop using it. So come on, man. The formula's already set. Fucking use it.
Well, to be fair, in terms of rankings, they're not necessary yet. And that's going to, because I know people love to be ranked. They want to be, I want to be 7th place in my county. Well, it doesn't matter. Stop. When we're talking about the amateur circuit, it doesn't matter what your ranking is. And really, you could benefit you could say that your ranking is whatever you place at nationals. I mean, really, if we're talking about tournament-based arm wrestling, because nobody's ever going to be happy with their tournament-based rankings, that goes more to the professional side, because that's when you start making your top 10 stuff. And plus, when it comes to the professional side, it can't be tournament-based anymore. Right. The professional side has to be one-on-one, where the rankings can actually be, hey, so-and-so's 2-1 because he won 2 super matches, he lost 1 super match. You actually, there's no weight value in the wins and all that kind of, you know what I mean? Like, if you win a super match, it's like winning a boxing match or a UFC match. The tournaments are cool to kind of decide who, out of this group of 8 guys who are super close, who's in line. That's cool. But even then, it gets a little weird just because tournament-based is tournament-based. After the first round, everything's weird. Which most of us are perfectly happy with. I mean, we've all been doing tournament-based arm wrestling our entire careers. All of us have. We're fine with that. But to say you can build a ranking off that, I don't know if it would take so long. You're right, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
The only ranking that matters is the placement at nationals, because that decides who goes to Worlds.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter at all. And to be honest with you, the problems that we have are so big, in my opinion, in this country in terms of arm wrestling. The problems we have are so big It's like you're saying that the light, oh, my car, the headlight's out. Well, it doesn't have an engine.
You know what?
It doesn't have an engine.
You're
So
right.
fuck
You're
your
right.
light.
You're 100% right that their problems are big. But the good news is the solutions are all sitting there.
Correct.
The structure is there.
Yeah, the engine's
The
sitting right
people
there.
are there. The tournaments are there. The rules are there. Everything's fucking right there. We just have to say, wait a minute. Maybe we should just use all the stuff we already have, guys. You know,
That's it.
maybe stop creating new leagues and new nationals and new everything else and new rules.
More money, more problems.
We have this. Let's freaking use the system we have. Let's use the people we have. Let's use the rules, the organizations we already have, and make this shit work.
Yeah.
Instead, we don't need to reinvent anything. It's all there.
We got to plant seeds.
Honestly, when I'm saying this, it makes me feel stupid, and that we're all collectively stupid for doing it this way. Denise just posted arm wrestlers have all the power. They can make or break an organization. It's 100% true.
Yeah.
Why are we such a fickle group of people that we will travel 1,000 miles for a brand new organization just for a promise of a little bit of extra money?
Because I get a hammer and I can get 60 likes on my Facebook. And then somebody will give me a nickname because it's cool. You know what I mean? That's really what we're at right now. Like I said before, attention is more important than accomplishment right now. And it doesn't necessarily matter if you do things the right way in terms of organization. Because that's always going to be there. There's always going to be people who are far obsessed with one side or far obsessed with a different side. And that's okay. It takes all kinds. It takes all kinds. But if you have that small group of people chopped up into 6 pieces, none of it all fails. You know what I mean? Like we're starving ourselves. That's what we're doing. We're on a really small island with a little bit of food, and we're all trying to figure out, instead of figuring out how to grow food, we're trying to, well, who gets my, I want mine. I need
Mike
my
wants to
food.
keep his hammers, though.
Well, you can keep your hammers, Mike. It's fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
keep the hammers.
you earned them.
Jojo has a comment on here that I want to respond to about if we all go to USAF, we're basically turning our backs on USAA and AAA nationals. And that's true unless it's run in a unified fashion. And I've said it before, Denise, Karen run the brackets, Leonard and Bill are reffing. We have Frank Bean in there, we have Simon in there. We have everybody that we already have running the event as one group, and you're not turning your back on anybody.
Yeah, and I agree. And like I said before, the acronym, I could give a shit. So if you want to make a brand new one out of everybody, if we have USAF, USAA, AAA, and they say, you know what, we don't want to ever give up any of this, but we want to have a unified league that all these kind of, I don't care. I don't care what I do agree that there's 2 groups of people that have put an incredible amount of work in doing the right thing to the best, absolute best of their ability for the very right reasons that aren't going to be very happy.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not. I mean, I don't know. But it has to happen.
Listen, man, it does have to happen. It has to happen for our sport to be respected and for it to, to have a chance at being an Olympic sport and all that kind of stuff. The one common rule is unification, worldwide unification. We're the 3rd most populous country in the entire world, only behind China and India, and we are probably the least unified in terms of arm wrestling.
Yeah,
Denise is saying there's too many egos. Okay, look at FIFA, for Christ's sake. I mean, that's one of the biggest sport organizations in the world, and they have so much corruption and egos in there. You probably get like 500 idiots all in one room, but they still manage to run it. Egos can be a problem, but it can be overcome. Maybe you need new people in there as buffers between each other. You know what I mean? I think the point is that the value of unification and the impact on the sport, in my opinion, supersedes any of our individual personal concerns. For me, it supersedes my ability to potentially win and go to Worlds. It's more important to me than that. And for other people, it has to supersede whatever the problems are there, whatever issues happen, financial, procedural, what have you. The value of this, that this has to the sport is more important than all that kind of stuff. And I feel like we can get over things like this. Like I said, there's no bodies buried. We're talking about people, all of whom are good people. And, even good people have lots of fights and arguments. We've all been blocked by people that we like on Facebook, for example. That shit happens. But it can be overcome. the point is, as you've said, Denise, arm wrestlers have a lot of power, and if we are unified and we support things like we're saying we're going to do here on this show and all over the internet for the last 2 weeks, there's no reason it can't happen. Involve more people, so you have enough of it spread out, and the people who deserve to be involved in it, who've been kicking ass, who we've mentioned 65 times on this show, they deserve to be involved, and they know what they're doing. So we need to find a way to motivate them and give them the support that they need to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes you hit a new rock bottom. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where it kind of feels like this year the sport's kind of gone. And maybe not. I don't know. But sometimes you have this situation in the sport where everybody kind of agrees, and it's like, holy shit, something needs to change. This is some bullshit. And people didn't think it could get that bad, but it got that bad. So maybe new lows kind of create new highs. I don't know. But it solves so many problems. It solves so many problems, like this issue of leagues that think they're bigger than everybody else, that have events on the same day as long time events. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Travis having a tournament on the same day as Arnold's on the East Coast?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's Arnold. I think it's USAA Nationals, and he's doing that because he has a personal issue with Leonard, which to me is an infantile move.
That's so fucking disrespectful.
It is
to everybody. I don't care, promoter versus promoter. I don't give a shit. I don't. If you have a problem with somebody, if you have this and this, I could give two shits. It's not my business.
It's because it's not good for the sport. It has nothing to do with your personal conflicts with people.
It's disrespectful to the sport, and it's disrespectful to the pullers who have to make a choice in those areas. It's fucked up. And for some reason, people can continue to do the same shit over and over again, and people still follow the same fucking train. Everybody wants to sit at the cool table. The cool table's not that cool. The cool table is wherever you decide to sit at. And for some reason, people can't figure this out. And I don't know. To have a one sport where you can say, this is the organization and this is why we do this. I can tell somebody exactly why we do it. Hey, why do you pay entry fees? Oh, because the promoter says we do? That's the answer now, which is not a terrible answer. But if you could say, well, we pay entry fees because some of it goes to the event and then some of it goes to Team USA.
Right.
That sounds pretty all right to me.
It sounds pretty all right to me, too.
And it's going to take years. It's going to take years and years and years to build something that's fantastic out of that. But fuck, we've been doing this for years and years anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I mean, if you create a great foundation for USA arm wrestling that grows in both directions, it grows from adults to teens, it grows from adults to world level. All of a sudden, you have this fantastic foundation to build. We can do it, man. To build the professional level on, though.
We can do it.
Because that's where we want to go. We want to make it so that somebody someday can bring in a monthly salary, whether it's from a professional organization that has sponsors or their own sponsors. I mean, if you can make $100,000 a year arm wrestling, in terms of sports, that's a pretty modest thing. But I think everybody that's listening would be pretty fucking happy. I mean, I know I'd be pretty damn happy.
Yeah, I'd be ecstatic.
It's no different than any other sport. Even if you take something like UFC, which is a bunch of different smaller martial arts. It draws from judo, it draws from jiu-jitsu, wrestling, all these things, and they all have legitimate pathways on the amateur level. And you always talk about this new freak that's on the scene because he was a freak in what he did before. And
it's fun, and it gets people interested in the sport. Oh shit, what's he gonna do when he gets in the UFC? I can't wait, and then you want to go see it. I mean, you're right. That's a model, and again, it's a set model. Other sports do it, we can do it too.
And it's a set model that it changes the format. When it goes to professionalism, it goes to one-on-one competition, not tournaments. Where if you go to judo, if you go to jiu-jitsu, there are a bunch of tournaments. Even wrestling's a bunch of tournaments. So there's nothing to say that this format cannot work. It's worked before. And it gets, you get to that point where you start that small professional level where you get some smaller sponsors that give a modest living to some arm wrestlers. Even if they have to have day jobs, they make a decent yearly salary. They can go out and get their own shit
Yeah.
Because they have a
Like you
name,
said.
because they have a legitimate ranking.
Now you're doing the same thing you were telling me I was doing earlier, which is getting ahead of the foundation.
Well, it's not, though.
I like
'cause
it, though.
I already built the
I like
foundation.
it, though.
So I've already built it, though.
I like it. Okay.
You know what I mean, though? I didn't leave it
I do
behind.
know what you mean. No, you didn't leave it behind.
Because for
That's
some
true.
reason, things like WAL, all these UALs is no different. They came in with a big bunch of checks, and they said, well, if I just dump a bunch of money into it, we'll fix the problem.
All right.
But there was nothing there.
There was nothing there. Let's respond to some comments on
maybe
here.
a valiant effort, just an impossible effort.
There's
You know
two
what I mean? To be
people I
fair.
want to. Yes, I'm with you 100%. There's two people I want to respond on here. Simon says that they have run these events unified in the past, and it wasn't like some magic trick. I'm saying, okay, that was the past. Let's do it again. Let's try it again. If you did it before, that's even more proof that we can do it again. I guarantee you, more people will come this time because everybody's fired up about it and everybody's talking about it. Now, to Carlisle, who's posting all kinds of stuff about WAF not being a great organization. Again, I mentioned FIFA. I mentioned NFL with Roger Goodell. The WF isn't perfect. So what? It doesn't matter. That's the organization. We have no power and no control over what happens in WF because we have a tiny team that doesn't win a lot of gold medals. If we start going over there and kicking ass with a team of 100 people, then we have some, and Simon mentioned this last week, then we have a voice. We can say, listen, we want to have Worlds back in the United States.
And Leonard mentioned
we
it.
get more people, and Leonard mentioned it, we get more people on the board over there because we actually have a team that's significant in numbers and comparable to some of the other major nations.
Right.
We have to go back there to make the changes that you want to see, Carlisle. In order for us to do, we just can't just complain about it on a Facebook show and expect that something's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen unless we do the work to get over there and give ourselves a voice. In the same way we have to give ourselves a voice at nationals. It's work that we have to do. And that's why John and I both are fired up about this, but it's like, we can sit here and talk for an hour and then we go to bed and forget about it. Screw that. You know what I mean? Let's use this motivation, man, and start getting some of this shit done.
Like you said, the pieces are there.
The pieces are there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. A lot of work has gone into all these, everything. Every piece of it, a lot of work has gone into. For a good reason. It takes a long time to build something like hell yeah, you do. And you have to respect the fact that most people do not have the ability to do it themselves. Even something as simple as the rules. Most people do not have the ability to sit back and objectively look at a set of rules and go through 40 years worth of corrections. You're not going to ever find it. People just did it. It didn't just happen. We've used rules and we adjusted them. And we adjusted them based on real life experience. It's taken a long time. It's important.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is important. You know what? You guys have been amazing with these comments, but I know a lot of you feel the same way. I'm not going to continue to beat this same horse all night, but I think we both made our points. John, had a great Facebook post I know a lot of you guys read. And I know pretty much everybody feels the same way about this kind of thing, that it's better to have unification, it's better to have the sport be organized, and it's, and based on the comments on this show at least, there's a lot of respect for doing things for the love of the sport and not chasing money. There's a few of us that can. Michael Todd, who's watching, Jerry Cataret, Travis Page, and Dave Chafee, people like that. They can chase money, but the reality is the rest of us are not going to win money like that. If we win a few $100s, then we're lucky. So what we have to do is for the love of the sport. And that's what we all have, and we have to make use of that. Strike while the iron is hot. So people like us and Scott Wynn and a few other people, Paul Wynn and others who are interested in this, we need to talk. We need to find people that can do this and connect them with Denise and Leonard and Simon and Karen and Frank and Bill, and have everybody work together and start it off and see what happens, man. And then you can copy the model they have in other countries, and we stop looking like a bunch of clowns.
Yeah, because the truth of it is that the goal is, of course, to do it for money. Mm-hmm. But like you said, we all do it because we love to do it. There's something goofy about this goddamn sport that for some reason we can't walk away from it. Even when it sucks, we can't walk away from it. And,
right.
You take all those arm wrestlers you just mentioned, which are all fantastic arm wrestlers and very successful and all that, get rid of them, and we'll still have arm wrestling. And it'll be just as good. because nothing is bigger than the sport. It's clear. It's just the way it is, and there's a lot of people out there, you know, that go after the sport to be the very best they can be and hopefully be the very best in the world. You're talking to one right now. And I think that's what everybody's goal is. Now, to make money on top of it would be fantastic, but we're never, ever going to get there without kind of setting that road.
No,
it's just not going to happen.
But
the pieces are there, Josh. The pieces are there.
Dude, I'm glad we did this show because I feel like we got a lot off my chest and your chest and everybody else's chest. So it's like, you know.
Yeah, let me read the message I got from Josh right before the show, actually. I say we rip the arm wrestling world a new asshole tonight. I just responded, I'm down. so yeah, I'm glad we did the show tonight too.
I love you guys are making some very intelligent comments, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us and agreeing and disagreeing with us. And I don't know. We have the motivation to do it. There's the people to do it. There's the reason to do it. There's the foundation that's already there. Everything we need is already in place. We just have to stop ignoring it and get the fuck on the stick.
Yeah, and there's so many people out there. There's so many people out there that are gonna please respond and correct us. Correct us somehow, because there might be a decent amount of good ideas, but
I'm sure there are.
There's a lot of people
10 times smarter people than us.
Well, there's just people that have been through this and that we respect so much. Please, but there's got to be something,
Yeah, I agree. Denise, come on the show next week. You can be episode 99.
Hell yeah.
Half the smart comments are from you, so you got to come on here and educate us.
Do it.
But listen, guys, you're awesome. I'm gonna read all the comments again because there's a lot of smart stuff in there. Let's keep it up, and we'll see you next week.
We'll start the poll. Get the voting going.
Start the poll tonight. Answer the poll. Fuck yeah.
All right. Peace.
All right. Peace out.
Later, you pricks.